you so much. We appreciate it. I want to bring now in Keith Millhouse. He's a rail safety expert and former chairman of Metrolink. That's a rail line in Southern California. So you have knowledge on this, and I want to talk specifically about that PTC.
Yes.
You know, the train crash in Philadelphia, it had been determined, had that been activated, it could have prevented that. Well, we don't know if that's the case in Washington. This was installed partly. It was not operational yet. I mean, what kind of standard needs to be put in place if we know that this can prevent things?
Well, the standard is this has to be applied and implemented immediately throughout the country. It is very technologically complex and it is expensive, but unfortunately many railroads across the country have dragged their feet implementing it using cost and complexity as an excuse.
Well, Amtrak's saying, listen, this was a track that was tested weeks prior to this run, no problems. So how could things go so wrong? Is it just the speed?
Well, the NTSB will look at a variety of factors, but the first observation when I saw this accident was, and the speeds that were reported, is this train was going way too fast to navigate this particular curve. Why was it going too fast? When you have two people in a cab, the immediate thing that comes to mind is a lack of situational awareness. Much like Philadelphia, the engineer lost his perspective on where he was. And in Philadelphia, he thought he was on a straightaway that had a 100-mile-per-hour speed limit, when in fact, he was approaching a 50-mile-per-hour curve. What caused this engineer to be unaware of the fact that he was coming up to this curve and be going 80 miles an hour?
Well, and as we heard from Stephanie, that crew is in the hospital, so that's what is adding to the delay of getting that answer. But they're looking into whether or not he could have been distracted. How would they determine that? Are there cameras in the cabin?
Well, fortunately, in this particular case, it's been reported that the locomotive at the front of the train was a newer locomotive which had an inward-facing cameras. Most of Amtrak's trains are older and do not have inward-facing cameras, but hopefully they can look at the cameras and the recordings from those cameras to determine what happened. There's a possibility that, there were some discussions and a lack of focus between the two people that were up in the cab, and as a result, if you become disoriented, especially in the dark, as to where you are on the system, you could very well think you're at a point that has a different layout or terrain than where you actually are.
A lot of people are heading out for the holidays. They're going to be taking a train somewhere. In my New York days, having taken it dozens and dozens of times. If this PTC is not standard, if it could not be activated all over the country, how concerned should people be?
Well, I think generally rail travel is extremely safe. Now, having said that, it is incumbent upon every operational entity in the country to look at this and to reassess their safety culture, their focus, and affirm to everyone that it only takes a short lack of focus for a tragedy to happen. And so hopefully agencies around the country are standing down, stopping, and reevaluating whether they are focusing on safety as opposed to on-time performance or cost or things of that nature. Safety has to be first and foremost.
Well, we would have hoped that some things would have been learned from the Philadelphia crash. Keith Millhouse, thank you so much. We appreciate you being with us.
Thank you.
Well, ahead, she's being called a snow baby, and it's